6,000 years of darkness recognized their own kind. The Force itself recoiled as the ritual chamber on Dromund Kos erupted in violet fire. Not the crimson lightning of Sith sorcery, but something alien, something wrong. 3 Dark Council members stood around an obsidian altar carved with runes predating the Republic itself, their hands weaving patterns that tore at the fabric between universes. They sought power. They found something far worse. The dimensional barrier screamed as it split open, and through that wound in reality stepped a figure that made even Sith Lords hesitate. Purple ooze dripped from ornate armor, a horned helmet framing a face twisted with theatrical malice and 6 millennia of imprisoned rage. Ivan Ooze inhaled his first breath of Star Wars air and smiled, a predator's smile that promised creative suffering. "Well, well, well," his voice boomed through the chamber, echoing with unnatural resonance. "What do we have here? New worshippers, new slaves, or just new toys?" Purple energy crackled around his clawed fingers as he surveyed the 3 Sith Lords. "I've been locked away for 6,000 years, and you delightful little dark wizards decided to give me a whole new galaxy to play with." Darth Mortis, eldest of the 3 summoners, stepped forward with practiced arrogance. "We have summoned you, creature, to serve the Sith Empire. You will—" Ivan's hand moved faster than any non-Force user should manage. Purple ooze shot forward, wrapping around Mortis's throat and lifting him off the ground. "Did you just say, serve?" Ivan's laugh was theatrical, manic, genuine. "Oh, you precious little fool, I don't serve anyone. I ran an empire on my world before those infernal teenagers locked me away. And now?" He squeezed, making the Sith Lord choke. "Now I'm going to do it again, only this time—" He released Mortis, letting him crumple. "This time I'm starting with your empire." The other 2 Sith Lords ignited their lightsabers, crimson blades humming to life. Ivan Ooze watched with delighted curiosity. "Ooh, laser swords! How wonderfully theatrical!" He extended both hands, and purple lightning, not Force lightning, but something that made the air itself smell of sulfur and corruption, crashed into both Sith. They screamed as the energy didn't just hurt them, but changed them, their eyes flickering with purple light. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. May the Force be with you. Through the massive transparasteel windows of Kos City's upper levels, storm clouds perpetually darkened the sky, a manifestation of concentrated dark side energy that had shrouded Dromund Kos for centuries. But as Ivan Ooze stepped out of the ritual chamber and onto the rain-slicked streets, those clouds began to change. Purple veins spread through the black storm system like infection through a body. The Sith Empire had just invited a parasite into its heart, and Ivan Ooze had never been one to waste an opportunity. He stood atop the ritual chamber's entrance, purple ooze spreading in pools at his feet, and gazed across the sprawling city of dark temples, military installations, and Sith academies. Thousands of years imprisoned had taught him patience, but also the pure, undiluted joy of finally being free. "Let's see what this galaxy has to offer," he purred, his form beginning to shimmer as shape-shifting powers awakened. "Time to meet my new subjects. And oh, are we going to have fun together?" Behind him, the 2 corrupted Sith Lords rose, their movements jerky and unnatural, purple light burning in their eyes. They had become the first of Ivan Ooze's thralls in this new galaxy. They would not be the last. The Sith Empire had sought a weapon. They had unleashed a plague. The Dark Council convened within 30 minutes of the disturbance. 11 Sith Lords materialized as holograms around the circular chamber, their physical forms scattered across the galaxy on various campaigns and machinations. Only Darth Ravage attended in person, his towering frame dominating the center of the room as he demanded answers. "Mortis is dead," announced Darth Mar, his mask hiding whatever expression crossed his face, along with Darth Ekage and Darth Hadra. "The ritual they attempted was unsanctioned," Ravage interrupted, his voice like grinding metal. "They sought to summon a dark side entity from beyond known space. Instead, they opened a dimensional rift. And what emerged? Darth Mortis, a different Sith Lord sharing the same Darth name, as was common in Sith tradition, leaned forward in his hologram. What killed 3 council members? The chamber doors exploded inward. Not with force power, but with purple ooze that dissolved the durasteel like acid through flesh. Through the smoking entrance strode Ivan Ooze, flanked by what had once been the 3 ritual summoners. Their skin had taken on a purple tint, their eyes glowing with unnatural light, their movements puppeteered by an invisible hand. "Allow me to introduce myself." Ivan spread his arms wide, his theatrical nature in full display. "I am Ivan Ooze, the most magnificently evil sorcerer your pitiful little dimension has ever seen, and you," he pointed at each hologram in turn, "are the Dark Council. How absolutely delightful!" Darth Ravage ignited his lightsaber, the crimson blade casting harsh shadows. "You dare enter this chamber. You dare. Dare? Dare!" Ivan's laugh echoed unnaturally. "I don't dare, you overgrown lizard. I do." Purple energy erupted from his hands, not at Ravage, but at the holo projectors. The holograms flickered, then solidified. Ivan's reality-warping powers forcing the remote Dark Council members to manifest physically within the chamber against their will. The Sith Lords reacted with shock, then rage. Lightsabers ignited across the room, 8 more crimson blades joining Ravage's. Force lightning crackled, telekinetic waves crashed against Ivan's position. The combined might of the Dark Council, 11 of the most powerful dark side users in the galaxy, struck as one. Ivan Ooze didn't dodge, he absorbed it. The force lightning channeled into his body, mixing with his own purple energy. The telekinetic waves broke against shields of crystallized ooze. And when the assault ended, Ivan was laughing. "Oh, that tickled. Is that your dark magic? How adorable!" He gestured and purple ooze erupted from the floor, wrapping around the legs of 4 council members. "Let me show you real power." Darth Mar moved with practiced precision, his blade severing the ooze tendrils. "He's drawing strength from the dark side nexus beneath this building. Cut him off from what? Your precious force?" Ivan's form began to grow, expanding to twice his normal height. "You stupid, stupid little despots. I don't need your force. I am my own force." His armor shifted, morphed, became more monstrous. "I've conquered worlds, I've corrupted civilizations, I've turned heroes into slaves and made entire populations worship me as a god. And you think your Dark Council impresses me?" Darth Vowron, ever the political survivor, deactivated his lightsaber. "Perhaps we can negotiate. The Sith Empire values power. You clearly possess..." "Negotiate?" Ivan's voice dropped to a theatrical whisper that somehow filled the entire chamber. "Oh no, no, no. You don't negotiate with Ivan Ooze. You obey Ivan Ooze. Or..." The 3 thralled Sith Lords suddenly attacked their former colleagues, moving with superhuman speed. "You become my puppets." The Dark Council chamber erupted into chaos. Sith fought corrupted Sith, crimson blades clashing against purple-tainted force powers. Ivan Ooze stood in the center of it all, conducting the violence like a symphony, his laughter rising above the sounds of combat. And beneath Ka City, in the sewers and maintenance tunnels, purple ooze began to spread. The first citizens of Kaw City to encounter the Ooze were maintenance workers in Sector 7's lower levels. They reported purple substance seeping through filtration systems, spreading across walls like living graffiti. Within hours, they stopped reporting altogether. Within a day, they walked the streets with glowing purple eyes, spreading Ivan's gift to everyone they touched. Darth Asina, Sith Lord overseeing Kaas City's military district, recognized a plague when she saw one. She ordered the lower sectors quarantined, deployed Imperial soldiers with flamethrowers, and personally incinerated 3 corrupted acolytes who tried to breach the quarantine barriers. The Ooze burned, but it learned. "It's adapting," reported Captain Jensar, his armor scorched from containment operations. The substance develops heat resistance after first exposure. Blaster fire passes through it. Vibroblades can't cut it. And anyone it touches becomes his thrall, Asina finished coldly. She stood atop the military district's command tower, watching purple lights spread through the lower city like a disease claiming a body. "Evacuate the upper districts. Prepare orbital bombardment coordinates. If we can't contain this..." An explosion rocked the tower, not from below where the ooze spread, but from above. Through the ceiling crashed a figure riding a sphere of purple energy, Ivan Ooze himself, flanked by a dozen corrupted Sith. His entrance destroyed 3 stories of the tower, raining debris onto the parade grounds below. "Orbital bombardment?" Ivan's voice dripped with mock hurt. "On your own capital? How ruthlessly practical." "I like you," he pointed at Asina. "You'd make an excellent general in my new empire. What do you say? Join me willingly, and I'll give you power beyond your dark side dreams. Resist." The corrupted Sith Lords groaned in unison, their mouths opening to release purple mist. "And you join them anyway. Either way, I win." Asina responded with force lightning, channeling decades of Sith training into a concentrated storm of crimson energy. It struck Ivan dead center, crackling across his armor, and for a moment, just a moment, she thought she'd hurt him. Then he started laughing. "More, more, feed me your hatred." Ivan's body absorbed the lightning, his form swelling with power. "You Sith are so deliciously dark. Every ounce of your anger, your rage, your precious dark side energy, it just makes me stronger." He thrust both hands forward, and purple lightning, twisted mirror of Sith power, exploded outward in a wave that knocked Asina and 20 Imperial soldiers off their feet. The corrupted Sith Lords descended on the fallen soldiers. Purple ooze flowed from their hands, covering the screaming men, transforming them. Asina watched in horror as her elite guard, warriors trained from childhood to resist Force domination, succumbed in seconds. Their eyes flickered, changed, became windows to Ivan's will. She ran. Darth Asina, who had never retreated from any battle, who had murdered her way onto the Dark Council through pure ambition and power, ran. Behind her, Ivan's laughter echoed through the command tower as his corruption spread through the military district like wildfire through dry grass. By nightfall, 3 districts had fallen. Purple-eyed citizens shambled through streets they once walked freely, spreading ooze with every touch, every breath. Sith academies became factories of corruption as acolytes, their minds sharp but their wills broken, used their force training to accelerate the plague's spread. Even the mighty Imperial Guard, elite warriors sworn to protect the Sith Emperor, found their cortosis weave armor and force resistance useless against an enemy that didn't fight. It infected. Ivan Ooze established his throne in the former Dark Council chamber. He'd reshaped it with his reality-warping powers, transforming cold Sith architecture into something from a nightmare carnival. Purple banners hung from walls, twisted statues of his own image replaced stern Imperial monuments. and the floor itself pulsed with living ooze that whispered promises of power to anyone who stood upon it. 5 Dark Council members knelt before him now, their wills broken, their eyes purple. The others had escaped: Mar, Ravage, Vauron, and 3 more scattered across the galaxy, calling for help that might never come. But Ivan didn't mind. He was patient. He had 6,000 years of patience, and now he had an entire city to play with. "Bring me the Imperial Archives," he commanded his thralls. "I want to know everything about this galaxy, every world, every species, every delicious little civilization just waiting to join my empire." He leaned back on his throne, purple ooze dripping from his armor to pool on the floor. "And find me this Sith Emperor everyone keeps mentioning. I have so many questions for him." Outside, the perpetual storm clouds above Kos City had turned completely purple. The dark side nexus that had powered Sith rituals for centuries now fed something far more ancient, far more hungry. And across the galaxy, Force-sensitive beings from Jedi Masters to Sith apprentices felt a disturbance unlike anything in their training or experience. Not the fall to the dark side, but the rise of something that existed beyond light and dark entirely. 3,000 light years away, in the heart of Republic space, the Jedi Council convened in emergency session. Grand Master Satele Shan stood before the holographic tactical display, her face grave as she studied reports flooding in from deep cover agents in Sith territory. "The situation is unprecedented," she said, gesturing to the purple-tinged map of Dromund Kos. "Our operatives describe a corruption spreading through Kos City at exponential rates. Citizens turned into mindless thralls, Sith lords, powerful dark side users, subjugated in minutes. And at the center of it all, a being from another dimension," Master Jarek Kaiden interrupted, his hologram flickering. He was calling from a Republic listening post near Sith space, his usual calm replaced with barely controlled alarm. "Master Shan, I've seen the surveillance footage. This Ivan Ooze doesn't use the Force. He doesn't need the Force. His powers operate on principles our Order has never encountered." Master Sio Bakarn, the combat specialist, leaned forward. "Can he be killed?" "Unknown. The corrupted Sith lords who serve him appear immortal. Blaster fire passes through them. Lightsabers cause wounds that seal in seconds." Kaiden's image gestured to data scrolling beside him. "The ooze substance itself is partially corporeal, partially energy. It adapts to attacks, and it spreads. 3 districts of Kos City are now completely under his control." Satele closed her eyes, reaching out through the Force. What she sensed made her stomach clench, a purple stain spreading across the dark nexus of Dromund Kos, corrupting even the dark side itself. This is not merely a Sith problem. If this entity conquers the Sith Empire, he'll turn their fleets and armies against us, Master Bakarn finished. The Sith have thousands of capital ships, millions of soldiers, and Force users trained in combat, corrupted and unified under one will. "The Republic would fall within a year," Satele said quietly. "Perhaps less." The chamber fell silent. Every Jedi present understood the terrible calculus before them. The Sith Empire was their ancient enemy, responsible for countless atrocities and a war that had raged for decades. But Ivan Ooze represented something worse, a threat that didn't seek balance or even conquest through conventional means. He sought total subjugation, the transformation of all life into extensions of his will. "We must contact the surviving Dark Council members," Satele decided. "Offer alliance." Master Bakarn stiffened. "Alliance with Sith? Master, that's necessary." Satele's voice carried the weight of her position. "The Sith are evil, but they are comprehensible evil. They value power, hierarchy, survival of the strong. We fought them for generations, but we understand them. This Ivan Ooze, she gestured to footage of purple-eyed thralls shambling through Kos city streets. He represents extinction of free will itself. Dark side or light, it won't matter if every being in the galaxy becomes his puppet. In the Sith Empire's former capital of Korriban, the ancient tombs stirred. Ivan Ooze had sent his corrupted Sith lords to the birthplace of their order, seeking knowledge, seeking power, seeking the secrets buried beneath millennia of sand and bone. What they found exceeded even Ivan's theatrical expectations. The Valley of the Dark Lords had stood for thousands of years, tomb after tomb housing the preserved remains of ancient Sith. Dark side energy saturated every grain of sand, every carved stone. The dead slept here, their spirits bound to their resting places through Sith sorcery, waiting for worthy inheritors or foolish grave robbers. Ivan's thralls were neither. They were vessels for his will, and his will was to wake the dead. Purple ooze poured into the tomb of Tulak Horde, legendary Sith Lord whose mastery of lightsaber combat remained unmatched 3,000 years after his death. The ooze found his preserved corpse, his ancient armor, his holocron containing techniques that made modern Sith look like children playing with practice sabers, and it corrupted all of it. The corpse stirred, rose. Tulak Horde's spirit, bound for millennia to guard his knowledge, screamed in rage and horror as Ivan's corruption overwrote his very essence. Purple light burned in the sockets of his skull. His hand reached for his lightsaber, igniting a blade that flickered between crimson and violet. Magnificent, Ivan's voice echoed through the tomb, transmitted through his thrall's mouth. Simply magnificent, an army of ancient dark warriors, all the knowledge of your precious Sith Order, and the bodies to hold them. His laughter reverberated through the valley. Keep raising them. Every tomb, every corpse, every lingering spirit, they're all mine now. By sunset, 17 ancient Sith Lords walked again, corrupted, enslaved, their legendary powers now weapons in Ivan Ooze's arsenal. They shambled from their tombs, purple ooze dripping from ancient armor, and began the journey back to Dromund Kaas, an army of legends twisted into nightmares. On the Emperor's personal flagship, the Apex Predator, Darth Maul received the reports with increasing dread. The Dark Council had scattered after Ivan's attack, each member fleeing to their power bases across the Empire. He had rallied what remained of the Imperial fleet, 300 capital ships still answering to legitimate Sith authority. But 300 ships meant nothing against an enemy who turned your own forces against you with a touch. Dromund Kaas is lost, reported Admiral Haradax, the fleet's commander. Orbital reconnaissance shows 80% corruption rate. The remaining population is either fleeing or already turned. My lord, we should— Base Delta Zero, Mar said coldly. The order for orbital bombardment that would sterilize the entire planet. Prepare all ships to— Wait! The voice came from the communication console, and every bridge officer recognized it. Darth Voron's hologram materialized, the political mastermind of the Dark Council looking uncharacteristically shaken. Mar, I've just received a transmission from the Jedi. The bridge fell silent. In 1,000 years of conflict, the Jedi had never initiated contact with the Sith, except to offer terms of surrender. The Jedi Council requests immediate negotiation, Vowron continued. They've analyzed the threat. They understand what we face. Grand Master Satley Shan herself is offering— He paused as if unable to believe his own words. An alliance, temporary cessation of hostilities, combined force against Ivan Ooze. Mar's masked face turned toward the viewport where Dromund Kaas hung in space, its surface now webbed with purple lights. The heart of the Sith Empire, corrupted in days by a single being from another dimension. Behind him, the bridge crew waited for his decision: reject Jedi help and face extinction with Sith, pride intact, or accept the unthinkable alliance and live to fight another day. "Send the coordinates for a neutral meeting," Mar finally said. "If we're going to work with Jedi." His hand tightened on his lightsaber hilt. "We do it on our terms." The meeting took place on Taral 5, a neutral world in the border regions where neither Republic nor Empire held firm control. A prefabricated conference facility sat alone on a windswept plateau, hastily erected by Republic engineers and scanned for threats by paranoid Sith security forces. Inside, two ancient enemies prepared to speak without weapons, drawn for the first time in generations. Grand Master Satele Shane arrived with Master Bakarn and 3 other council members. Darth Mar brought Voron and Ravage. They faced each other across a round table, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a lightsaber. "This is a mistake," Ravage growled, his massive frame barely contained by the conference chair. "The Jedi are weak. They will betray us the moment—" "We are not here to debate philosophy," Satele interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "We are here because an entity from another dimension is consuming the Sith Empire, and if he succeeds, the Republic falls next." Mar nodded slowly. "Agreed. Personal hatreds are irrelevant against extinction." He activated a holographic display showing Dromund Kaas. Purple infection covered 90% of the planet now. Ivan Ooze controls our former capital. 14 Dark Council members are corrupted, puppets dancing on his strings. He commands 80 capital ships, 200,000 Imperial soldiers, and— his voice hardened. The resurrected corpses of 17 ancient Sith lords from Korriban. Master Bakarn leaned forward. "Resurrected? You mean Tulak Horde, Marka Ragnos, Naga Sadao?" Mar listed names that made even Jedi historians pale. Legends of our order, corrupted and enslaved. Their knowledge, their power, all serving Ivan Ooze. Vauron spread his hands diplomatically. "We have attempted conventional assault. Our ships cannot approach Dromund Kaas. Corrupted Sith sorcerers aboard the orbital defense platforms manipulate hyperspace lanes, creating interdiction fields that drag ships out of hyperspace directly into weapons range. Ground assault is suicide. The ooze spreads through touch, through air, through water. Hazmat suits delay infection by minutes, not hours." "And bombardment?" asked Satele. "We tried." Mar's voice carried bitter anger. "Ivan Ooze has learned to manipulate our own technology. He corrupted the targeting computers of 3 Star Destroyers during our bombardment attempt. They fired on each other before we could stop them. We lost 90,000 crew." The Jedi exchanged glances. Master Jarek Kaden spoke carefully. "Our archives contain records of similar corruption entities, ancient Sith plagues, Rakul viruses, techno-organic infections, all had weaknesses. Perhaps if we combine Jedi healing techniques with Sith alchemy—" "We've tried purification rituals," Ravage interrupted. "Force cleansing, meditation techniques, even experimental anti-dark side procedures. The ooze isn't force-based. It exists parallel to the Force, drawing strength from it without being subject to its rules." Satele closed her eyes, reaching out through the Force. She sensed Dromund Kaas as a wound in reality, purple corruption spreading like gangrene through a limb. And at the center of that wound, she felt Ivan Ooze. Not as a dark side presence, but as something that shouldn't exist in their dimension at all. A foreign object the galaxy itself was trying to reject, but failing. "He's growing stronger," she said quietly. "Every being he corrupts adds to his power. Every Sith Lord who falls gives him access to their knowledge, their techniques. At this rate, 3 months, Mar stated flatly. Our intelligence project's total Imperial collapse within 3 months. 6 months until he controls half the known galaxy. A year until there's nothing left but purple-eyed slaves worshipping a 6,000-year-old sorcerer from another dimension," Vowron finished. His usual political charm had evaporated, replaced by stark fear. "Gentlemen, ladies, we are looking at the end of sentient free will in our galaxy." Master Bakarn stood abruptly. "Then we hit him with everything. Combined Republic and Imperial fleets. Every Jedi Knight. Every Sith Lord not yet corrupted. We throw the full military might of 2 galactic powers at Dromund Kaas and lose," Satele said quietly. "Master Bakarn, sit down. Brute force will not work here." "Then what will work?" Ravage demanded. "We cannot negotiate with him. He views all life as toys. We cannot outfight him. He turns our own forces against us. We cannot outlast him. He's immortal and grows stronger daily. So please, please tell me the Great Jedi Council has some brilliant strategy we've overlooked." The room fell silent. 5 Jedi and 3 Sith, some of the most powerful Force users in the galaxy, and none of them had an answer. Outside the conference facility, the wind howled across Taralfi's empty plateau. Somewhere across the stars, purple corruption continued its inexorable spread. Finally, Satele spoke. "We need to understand him. His powers operate on principles foreign to our dimension. If we can determine the mechanism by which he corrupts, the source of his reality warping abilities, we might find a weakness," Mar finished. "Information warfare, intelligence gathering." He looked at Vowron. "Can any of your spy networks penetrate Dromund Kaas?" "They're trying. Most agents last minutes before corruption, but..." Vowron hesitated. "There is one possibility. Imperial intelligence recovered footage from the initial summoning ritual, the dimensional tear that brought Ivan Ooze here. If we study the energy signatures, compare them to known Force phenomena, we might learn how to send him back," Satele said, hope flickering in her voice. "Or at least, how to sever his connection to our dimension." She looked at Mar. "We'll need Sith sorcerers, ritual specialists who understand dimensional manipulation. And Jedi scholars," Mar countered. "Your order has studied Force anomalies for millennia, ancient texts, forbidden knowledge, resources we'll need to access." His masked face turned toward Satele. "Can your council approve sharing such information with Sith? Can yours approve accepting help from Jedi?" The 2 leaders stared at each other across the table. 1,000 years of warfare, betrayal, and bloodshed hung between them. But beyond that history loomed something worse, a future where neither Jedi nor Sith existed, only purple-eyed thralls serving a theatrical madman. "The Dark Council will agree," Mar said finally, "on one condition. When this is over, when Ivan Ooze is defeated, we return to our war. No permanent peace. No false reconciliation. We are enemies, and will always be enemies. But for now, we are allies against extinction," Satele finished. She extended her hand across the table. Mar stared at it for a long moment. Then, slowly, he clasped her forearm in the ancient warrior's greeting. "Jedi Master and Sith Lord, united by necessity against a threat neither could face alone. The alliance was forged. Now came the hard part, actually winning." The research facility on Manane floated serenely above the ocean world's endless waves, its white walls and advanced laboratories a testament to Republic scientific achievement. Now those laboratories housed an unprecedented collaboration. Jedi scholars poring over ancient texts alongside Sith sorcerers, Republic scientists analyzing energy readings, while Imperial intelligence officers provided field data from corrupted zones. Master Jarek Kaden stood before a massive holographic display showing the dimensional tear that had brought Ivan Ooze into their galaxy. The rift had closed minutes after his arrival, but the energy signature remained burned into reality like a scar in the Force itself. The ritual used 3 components, explained Darth Oculus, a Sith sorcerer who specialized in ancient knowledge. Her corruption-pale fingers traced patterns in the hologram. Traditional Sith summoning techniques, a power source drawing from Dromund Kaas's dark side nexus, and, this is the crucial part, a resonance frequency tuned to Ivan Ooze's specific dimensional signature. They called him specifically? Kaden asked. How did they even know he existed? They didn't. Oculus pulled up another display showing ancient Sith texts. The ritual was designed to summon ultimate darkness from beyond known space. The fools thought they were reaching into the unknown regions or perhaps touching the dark side's primordial source. Instead, they punched through to another universe entirely, finished Dr. Gorman, a Republic xenobiologist studying the ooze substance itself, and found something that answered their call. He gestured to a sealed containment unit where purple ooze pulsed against transparent walls. This substance is partially matter, partially energy, and partially something our instruments can't even classify. It exists in multiple states simultaneously. Sateli Shan entered the laboratory, Darth Maul beside her. The unlikely pair had become the de facto leaders of the Alliance, coordinating efforts across both Republic and Imperial resources. Have you found a weakness? Better, Oculus said, and for the first time her voice carried something like hope. We've found his strength and how to weaponize it against him. She manipulated the display, showing molecular analysis of the ooze. Ivan draws power from negative emotions, rage, fear, hatred, despair. The more suffering around him, the stronger he becomes. It's why he feeds on the dark side so effectively, why corrupted Sith Lords make him exponentially more powerful. So we deny him negative emotions? Mar's voice dripped skepticism. Good luck preventing fear when purple-eyed zombies are trying to convert you. Not deny, Kaden interjected, understanding dawning. Overwhelm. Ivan Ooze feeds on darkness, but what happens when you feed a parasite too much, too quickly? Dr. Gorman nodded excitedly. Exactly, watch this. He activated a recording showing a sample of ooze in a containment field. Scientists introduced measured amounts of pure dark side energy, extracted from Sith artifacts and channeled carefully. The ooze absorbed it, grew stronger. Then they flooded the chamber with uncontrolled dark side power, far more than any being could safely channel. The ooze thrashed, destabilized, began consuming itself. Within seconds, it had collapsed into inert purple crystal. Overload, Saitley breathed. You killed it with too much power. Not killed, destabilized, Oculus corrected. The ooze couldn't process that much energy at once. It exceeded its absorption capacity and collapsed. Now imagine we do this to Ivan himself. He'll sense the trap, Mar objected. He's not stupid. If we approach him with concentrated dark side energy, we don't approach him, Oculus interrupted. We deliver it, and we make him want to absorb it. She pulled up schematics for a Sith artifact that made even the Jedi present look uncomfortable. The Phobos devices, ancient weapons that amplified fear and suffering to apocalyptic levels. Those are forbidden, Satele said immediately. The Phobos devices were destroyed centuries ago for good reason. The suffering they cause. We've recreated them, Oculus said flatly. 3 devices built using Imperial schematics and powered by dark-side Nexus crystals, each one capable of projecting fear and despair across an entire planet. She met Satile's horrified gaze. "I know what I'm proposing, Jedi. I know the cost. But would you rather sacrifice 3 worlds to corruption or weaponize 3 artifacts for one decisive strike?" The laboratory fell silent. Outside the facility's windows, Manane's waves rolled endlessly, uncaring of the moral calculus being performed within. "How would we deploy them?" Ma asked, his pragmatism overriding ethical concerns. "We place the Phobos devices on 3 planets surrounding Dromund Kaas," Kaden explained, having clearly worked through this scenario already. "Activate them simultaneously. The wave of concentrated fear and suffering will wash over Ivan like a tsunami of dark side energy. He'll instinctively absorb it all. It's his nature, his function, and that absorption will tear him apart from the inside," Ma finished. "Elegant, ruthless, and it might actually work." He paused. "What about the populations of those 3 worlds?" Oculus didn't flinch. "They'll experience approximately 72 hours of unimaginable terror, nightmares made manifest, every fear they've ever had given form and substance. Psychological damage will be extensive. Some won't recover, but they'll live, unlike the alternative where Ivan corrupts them into mindless thralls forever." Satele closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command crushing down on her shoulders. 3 worlds, billions of sentient beings subjected to weaponized terror. It violated every Jedi principle she'd spent her life upholding. But the alternative? "We need to evacuate as many as possible," she said quietly, "especially children. Anyone too young or too vulnerable to survive the Phobos effect." "Evacuation will alert Ivan," Mar pointed out. "He'll see the population movements and know something's coming. Then we disguise it. Trade convoys, military exercises, humanitarian missions." Satele opened her eyes and they burned with determination. "We will not sacrifice innocent lives without trying to save them first. That's the difference between us and him." Mar nodded slowly. "Agreed. We're not monsters. Not yet." He turned to Oculus. "How long to complete the devices?" 2 weeks, assuming Imperial resources and Republic technical assistance. "You have both." Mar activated his comlink. "Admiral Haradax, begin Operation Exodus. Full fleet deployment for training exercises near target worlds. Coordinate with Republic vessels for..." He paused, clearly unused to the next words. "Joint operations." As the laboratory erupted into coordinated activity, Satele caught Mar's arm. "This plan could fail, if even stronger than we calculate. If he can process that much energy, then we all become purple-eyed slaves and this alliance meant nothing," Mar said bluntly. "But if we don't try, if we wait for a better option that may never come, the result is the same. At least this way, we die trying." Satele released his arm and nodded. The Sith was right. She hated that the Sith was right, but survival made strange philosophies compatible. On Dromund Kaas, Ivan Ooze reclined on his twisted throne, watching holographic displays showing his expanding empire. 4 planets now flew purple banners. 17 Imperial Star Destroyers had been corrupted, their crews transformed into his thralls. The undead Sith Lords from Korriban served as his generals, their ancient power now extensions of his will. "Magnificent," he purred. "Simply magnificent. And the best part," he gestured and a hologram appeared showing the Manian research facility. His corrupted Sith Lord spies had infiltrated Republic space, hidden among refugee populations, spreading his eyes and ears across the galaxy. "They think I don't know. They think their little alliance is secret." His laughter echoed through the throne room. "Oh, let them plan. Let them build their toys. It'll make the victory so much sweeter when I turn their weapons against them." He couldn't know, that some plans succeed not through secrecy, but through inevitability. The Valorous, a Republic cruiser retrofitted for this mission, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Dromund Kos system. Aboard, Master Bakarn led a strike team of 12 Jedi and 8 Sith. Warriors chosen for their ability to work together despite centuries of doctrinal hatred. Their mission was simple in concept, suicidal in execution. Plant the 3 Phobos devices on planets Bigarin, Athis, and Krayest Sekund, forming a triangle around Dromund Kos. Bigarin team report, Bakarn said into his comlink as the team split into assault shuttles. In position, confirmed Darth Serevan, leading the Sith contingent. Imperial garrison is loyal to Ooze. We'll have to fight through. Try to minimize casualties, Satele's voice crackled through the comm. She was coordinating from a command ship 3 systems away. Those soldiers are victims, not enemies. Victims who will kill us without hesitation, Serevan shot back. But we'll do what we can. The Bigarin team descended through atmosphere, their shuttle's stealth systems barely masking them from orbital sensors. Purple lights dotted the planet's surface, corruption spreading through the colony like blight through crops. They landed in a wasteland 5 kilometers from the designated Phobos device location, a dark side nexus that would amplify the weapon's effect. "Move fast," Bakarn ordered. "We have 30 minutes before—" Purple lightning struck from the sky. Not natural storm energy, but Ivan's power, channeled through corrupted Sith aboard the orbital platforms. The lightning carved through rock, barely missing the strike team as they scattered. Contact! A Jedi Knight ignited her lightsaber, deflecting bolts of purple energy as corrupted Imperial soldiers emerged from concealment. Their eyes glowed with that horrible purple light, their movements coordinated with inhuman precision. They didn't shout battle cries or call for surrender. They simply attacked with machine efficiency. Bakarn's blue blade carved through 3 soldiers before he realized they weren't dying. The bodies fell, purple ooze leaking from wounds, then rose again. "They're not alive," he shouted. "Ooze is puppeting the corpses." A Sith warrior unleashed Force lightning, incinerating 2 corrupted soldiers. "Destroy the bodies completely. Fire disintegration. Nothing less works." The battle devolved into nightmare. Jedi who'd trained their entire lives to preserve life found themselves forced to obliterate enemy combatants, burning bodies to ash to ensure they stayed down. Sith who valued efficiency struggled against enemies that simply wouldn't die from conventional attacks. And all the while, purple lightning continued to rain from orbit, forcing them to dodge while fighting. "The device!" Serevan grabbed the cylindrical artifact from his pack. "Cover me!" 4 Jedi formed a defensive perimeter while Serevan ran for the Nexus Point, an ancient Sith shrine radiating dark side energy. He placed the Phobos device at the shrine's center, activated the arming sequence, and a figure landed beside him. Tulak Horde, legendary Sith duelist, his corpse animated by Ivan Ooze, purple light burning in his skull's eye sockets. His lightsaber, a blade that had killed thousands in life, ignited with a violet hue. "Oh hell," Serevan breathed, igniting his own crimson blade. They clashed. Ancient master versus modern Sith, technique refined over 3,000 years versus contemporary aggression. Tulak Horde's blade moved with precision that shouldn't be possible for a corpse, each strike perfectly placed, each parry exactly timed. Serevan defended desperately, his form breaking down under the assault, his blade barely keeping pace. Then Master Bakarn arrived, his blue lightsaber intercepting a strike that would have decapitated Serevan. "Together," the Jedi shouted. Jedi and Sith fought side by side, their blades moving in coordination against the corrupted legend. Light side and dark, philosophies that had opposed each other for millennia, working in harmony against a threat that transcended their ancient conflict. Tulak Horde was faster, stronger, more skilled. But he was one corpse controlled by a distant will, and they were two living warriors fighting for survival. Bakarn's blade severed the corpse's sword arm. Serevan's force lightning burned through the torso, and together they unleashed a combined force push that shattered the animated remains into purple-stained fragments. "Device is armed," Serevan gasped. 30 minutes until activation." Similar battles raged on Athis and Kreis II. The second team lost 3 members, 2 Jedi and 1 Sith, to corrupted defenses before successfully planting their device. The third team encountered Marka Ragnos himself, another legendary Sith Lord resurrected and corrupted and barely escaped with their lives. But all 3 devices were planted, armed, counting down. On Dromund Kaas, alarms screamed through Ivan Ooze's throne room. His corrupted Sith Lords analyzed sensor data, their puppet mouths speaking in unison with his voice. 3 anomalies, 3 dark side amplifiers, positioned in perfect triangulation around our position. Ivan's eyes narrowed. They're building something big. He reached out through his corruption network, accessing the minds of 10,000 thralls simultaneously. Through their eyes, he saw evacuation efforts, Republic and Imperial ships working together, moving civilian populations away from the 3 device locations. Clever, he admitted. They're planning something that requires empty space, something nasty. His theatrical nature warred with his survival instinct. Part of him wanted to applaud the audacity, to let the plan unfold, just to see what they'd devised. But 6,000 years of existence had taught him caution. "Send the Armada," he ordered. "All corrupted ships. I want those devices destroyed, now." 80 Star Destroyers and 300 support vessels jumped to hyperspace, converging on the 3 planets. But they encountered resistance. The combined Republic-Imperial fleet had positioned itself to intercept. 300 ships versus 380, the largest space battle since the war began. Admiral Haradax commanded from the bridge of Apex Predator, Darth Maul beside him. All batteries focus fire on corrupted vessels, target bridges and engines, disable, don't destroy. Those crews might be savable. Negative, Mar overruled. Full destructive fire. Every corrupted ship that survives is a weapon Ivan Ooze can turn against us. No mercy. Haradax hesitated, then nodded. All batteries. Lethal force authorized. Space erupted in fire and turbo laser beams. Ship fought ship in brutal close-quarters combat, Republic vessels using superior shields, while Imperial craft relied on overwhelming firepower. Corrupted crews fought with inhuman coordination, their purple-eyed efficiency making them dangerous opponents despite inferior tactics. But numbers tell. The corrupted fleet was larger, and every ship they destroyed simply meant more debris. Worse, damaged corrupted vessels didn't retreat. They crashed themselves into enemy ships, using hulls as battering rams, sacrificing everything for Ivan's will. "We're losing," Haradax reported grimly. "Casualty rate is unsustainable. Recommend..." "Hold the line," Mar commanded. "The devices activate in 12 minutes. We just need..." A massive surge of purple energy erupted from Dromund Kaas itself. Ivan Ooze, drawing on the corrupted dark side nexus beneath Kaas City, channeling power through thousands of enslaved Force users, unleashed a wave of reality-warping energy that washed over the battlefield like a tidal wave. Ships' systems flickered. Targeting computers malfunctioned. Crews felt waves of fear crash over them, Ivan's corruption seeking purchase in their minds. 3 Republic cruisers and 2 Imperial destroyers reported corrupted crew, their own people turning against them, purple eyes glowing, ooze spreading through their corridors. "He's countering," Satile's voice cut through the chaos. "The Phobos devices activate in 10 minutes. Can you hold?" Mar looked at the tactical display. They were losing ships by the minute. But 10 minutes, that was an eternity in space combat. "We'll hold," he said grimly, "or die trying." On Begarin, Athos, and Craeus II, the Phobos devices hummed with building power, their countdown timers ticking toward 0. And across 3 star systems, warriors of light and dark fought together against a purple nightmare that threatened to consume them all. 5 minutes to activation. The Republic Imperial fleet was in shambles, 60 ships destroyed, hundreds more damaged, crews fighting both external enemies and internal corruption, as Ivan's influence spread through the fleet like infection through a body. Admiral Haradax's bridge crew worked frantically to isolate corrupted sections, venting compartments to space when necessary, burning out their own people to prevent the spread. Darth Maul stood at the viewport, watching purple lightning arc between corrupted vessels and loyal ships alike. Through the Force, he sensed Ivan Ooze's presence, vast, alien, theatrical even in battle. The entity was enjoying this, treating galactic warfare like a performance for his amusement. "All ships, full retreat to hyperspace," Satile's voice commanded through fleet channels. "Get clear of the blast radius, now!" Ships began jumping away, but corrupted vessels pursued, refusing to let them escape. One Republic cruiser took critical damage to its hyperdrive just as it tried to jump. The ship tore itself apart in a failed hyperspace transition, debris spreading across thousands of kilometers. "We've lost 40% of our force," Haradax reported, his voice hollow. "Was it worth it?" "We're about to find out," Mar said. On the 3 planets, the Phobos devices reached critical mass. The few remaining civilians who hadn't evacuated, those too stubborn, too faithful to local traditions, or simply too slow, suddenly felt their worst fears given form and substance. Nightmares walked the streets. Loved ones long dead appeared with accusatory eyes. Childhood terrors manifested as physical entities that clawed at minds more than bodies. The screaming started, billions of sentient beings across 3 worlds experiencing simultaneous apocalyptic terror. Their collective fear, despair, and suffering channeled through the Phobos devices and amplified by dark side nexuses, created a wave of negative emotion so powerful it registered on force-sensitive instruments across the entire sector. Ivan Ooze felt it coming. A tsunami of darkness, fear, and pain rolling toward Dromund Kaas like the wrath of an angry god. His first instinct was to shield himself, to protect against the overwhelming wave. Then his nature asserted itself. This was power, pure, undiluted, magnificent power, fear and suffering on a scale he'd never experienced, even on his home world. It called to him, promised to make him stronger than he'd ever been, offered elevation to godhood itself. "Yes," his voice echoed across Dromund Kaas, through every corrupted thrall, every purple-eyed puppet. "Feed me, make me a god." He opened himself completely, his ooze form expanding, his corruption network dilating to absorb the incoming power. The wave hit him like a supernova of darkness. For 3 seconds, Ivan Ooze became the most powerful entity in the galaxy. His form swelled to gigantic proportions, purple energy crackling around him in apocalyptic storms. He sensed every living being in the sector, felt their terror fuel him, experienced godlike omnipotence. Then he started to destabilize. Too much, too much. The power flooded through him faster than he could process, his ooze form unable to contain the sheer volume of negative energy. He'd spent 6,000 years learning to feed on suffering, but always at sustainable levels. This was like drinking an ocean, impossible, fatal, catastrophic. "No!" His voice cracked with something that might have been fear. "Stop! Stop!" But the Phobos devices didn't stop. They'd been designed for exactly this, 72 hours of sustained terror projection. And Ivan, in his arrogance and greed, had opened himself completely to the flow. His form began to crack. Purple energy leaked from fissures in his armor, his ooze body losing cohesion. The corruption network spanning 4 planets started to fragment as his control wavered. Thralls collapsed, purple light fading from their eyes as Ivan's grip on their minds loosened. On the apex predator, sensors showed the dark side energy readings around Dromund Kaas, spiking to levels that should have been impossible. "It's working." Satellai's voice carried disbelief and hope in equal measure. "He's overloading. The corruption field is collapsing." But Ivan Ooze hadn't survived 6 millennia by being easy to kill. Even as his form destabilized, even as power tore through him like acid through flesh, his mind remained sharp. He was a survivor, a schemer, and if he couldn't absorb the power, he would redirect it. With the last of his control, Ivan seized the corrupted star destroyers in orbit above Dromund Kaas. 80 massive vessels, each carrying thousands of enslaved crew, each powered by reactors that could slag continents. He channeled the overflowing energy into those ships, using them as batteries, as overflow vessels for power he couldn't contain. The star destroyers began to glow purple. Their reactors strained beyond safety limits. Hulls heated to temperatures that made metal run like water. And Ivan, cackling even through his agony, set them on a collision course with the 3 planets housing the Phobos devices. "If I'm going down," his fractured voice echoed across every communication channel in the sector, "I'm taking this whole galaxy with me. 80 star destroyers, all going critical. 3 planets about to become craters, and all those precious civilians you tried so hard to save." His laughter was the sound of madness itself. "They're about to learn what real fear feels like." On the bridge of Apex Predator, Mar watched the tactical display with growing horror. 80 star destroyers, each one a flying bomb. Each one aimed at a planet still housing millions of civilians who couldn't be evacuated in time. If even one made it through. "All ships," he commanded, his voice cutting through chaos. "Intercept course. Destroy those vessels before they reach the planets. Everything we have, now!" The battered Republic Imperial fleet, already devastated from the previous battle, turned to face one final desperate engagement. Damaged ships with half their weapons offline, crews exhausted from hours of combat, supplies running critical. And they had to destroy 80 capital ships before they could impact 3 worlds. "This is insane," Haradak said. "We don't have the firepower. Even if we..." "Then we ram them," Mar interrupted. "My flagship will take point. Any vessel still capable of combat forms up behind me. We stop those ships or we die trying." Through the Force, he felt Satile's presence, kilometers away on her command ship, yet connected to him through their temporary alliance. She didn't speak, but he sensed her acknowledgement. The Jedi fleet would follow the Sith flagship into what was likely a suicide mission. Light side and dark side united one final time. "All power to forward shields," Mar commanded. "Target the lead star destroyer. Maximum acceleration and..." He paused, something like respect entering his voice. "It has been an honor fighting beside the Republic, however briefly." The Apex Predator surged forward, turbo lasers blazing, shields straining against incoming fire from the corrupted vessels. Behind it, 200 Republic and Imperial ships followed. a ragged fleet of desperate warriors making one last stand against apocalypse. On Dromund Kos, Ivan Ooze's form continued to fragment, but his laughter never stopped. Victory or defeat, he would make sure this galaxy remembered his name, and if he fell, when he fell, he would take millions with him. The Phobos devices continued their 72-hour cycle. The corrupted star destroyers burned through space toward planetary targets, and in the space between, warriors of two philosophies prepared to sacrifice everything. The final battle had begun. The apex predator collided with the first corrupted star destroyer at relativistic speed. The impact was catastrophic. Shields collapsed instantly, hulls crumpled like paper, reactor cores breached in sympathetic detonation that painted space with nuclear fire. Darth Maul felt the ship die around him, felt his crew's lives extinguish in milliseconds, felt his own body beginning to fail as the bridge decompressed. But the corrupted Star Destroyer was destroyed. One down, 79 to go. Through the Force, he reached out one final time, not to Seitel, but to every Force-sensitive warrior in the fleet. Jedi and Sith alike felt his message, wordless but clear. Hold nothing back. We end this now. Then Darth Maul, Dark Council member, legendary Sith warrior, died in the cold vacuum of space, his sacrifice buying seconds that might save millions. Maul! Satele's anguish echoed through the Force. She'd fought this man for decades, hated everything he represented, but in their brief alliance, she'd glimpsed something unexpected, honor, even in darkness. All ships, ramming speed, for Mar, for the galaxy. The fleet transformed into living missiles. Captains who'd trained their entire lives to preserve their vessels now drove them into enemy hulls with suicidal precision. A Republic cruiser took down 3 Star Destroyers by threading between them and detonating its reactor. An Imperial dreadnought, its weapons offline and crew decimated, simply accelerated to maximum velocity and punched through a corrupted vessel's bridge. In orbit above Begarin, 12 corrupted Star Destroyers broke through the defensive line. Their purple glowing hulls heated to stellar temperatures as overloaded reactors approached critical mass. Impact in 90 seconds. The Phobos device below continued projecting terror, creating the very energy that was feeding Ivan's desperate gambit. Master Bakarn's strike team, still on the planet's surface, watched the descending apocalypse. "We can't shut down the device," Sir Evan said, his voice remarkably calm for a man facing imminent death. "The timer is locked, 71 hours and 48 minutes remaining." "Then we don't shut it down," Bakarn replied. He reached out through the Force, sensing the Phobos device's energy matrix. "We overload it. Channel all that fear and suffering not outward to Ivan, but inward to the device itself. That'll create a localized dark side implosion," a Jedi Knight protested. "The blast radius will destroy the Star Destroyers before they impact," Bakarn finished, "and probably kill us too. But 3 million civilians survive." He looked around at his team. 6 Jedi, 4 Sith, warriors who'd fought together through impossible odds. "Anyone who wants to evacuate, go now. No judgment." Nobody moved. "Stubborn fools," Seravan said and smiled. "Let's die like we lived, fighting back." They formed a circle around the Phobos device, Jedi and Sith alternating, light side and dark side users working in harmony for the last time. Their hands touched the device's casing and, as one, they reached into the Force, not to channel it safely, but to RIP it open like a wound. The Phobos device screamed. Dark side energy, compressed and amplified beyond any safety limit, achieved critical mass. The implosion created a sphere of absolute darkness that swallowed the strike team, the ancient Sith shrine, and the descending Star Destroyers. When the sphere collapsed, it left a crater 50 kilometers wide, and nothing living within its radius. Master Bakarn's last thought was satisfaction. 3 million civilians would see tomorrow. That was enough. Similar sacrifices played out above Athis and Kreis the Seine. Ships died by the dozen, buying time with blood and steel. Strike teams immolated themselves to trigger dark side implosions that consumed incoming star destroyers. And through it all, the Phobos devices continued pumping terror and suffering toward Dromund Kos, toward a fragmenting Ivan Ooze, who was learning that godhood came with a terrible price. On his twisted throne, Ivan's form had shrunk to half its normal size. Purple ooze pooled around him like blood from a mortal wound. His corruption network was shattered. Across 4 planets, millions of thralls regained awareness, their eyes clearing from purple to their natural colors, their minds their own again for the first time in weeks. "No," Ivan whispered, his theatrical voice reduced to a rasp. "No, this isn't how it ends. I'm Ivan Ooze. I conquered worlds. I enslaved civilizations. I won't." The last wave of Phobos energy hit him. Not as powerful as the initial surge, but concentrated, refined, weaponized. It didn't feed him power. It forced power into him, overfilling every cell of his ooze body, cracking his essence like a dam under too much pressure. His form exploded outward in a nova of purple energy. The throne room, the corrupted palace, the entire sector of Kos City vaporized in an instant. The blast wave rolled across Dromund Kos, purging corruption wherever it touched, burning away ooze infection like fire through disease. And at the center of that explosion, Ivan Ooze's consciousness felt itself dissolving. His carefully maintained immortality, his 6,000-year existence, his very identity fragmenting into constituent particles of purple energy that scattered across dimensions. His last thought was bitter rage, defeated not by heroes, not by superior power, but by his own greed. He'd reached for godhood and grasped oblivion instead. The dimensional rift that had brought him to this galaxy opened spontaneously, unstably, pulled by the energy signatures of his death. What remained of Ivan Ooze, fragments of consciousness, droplets of ooze, echoes of a theatrical madman, was pulled through that rift and expelled back into the dimensional void between universes. He wasn't dead. Entities like Ivan Ooze couldn't truly die, but he was scattered, fragmented, cast into the space between realities where even his 6,000-year mind would take millennia to reconstitute. The galaxy was safe, for now. Above Dromund Kos, Satele Shan watched from her damaged flagship as the purple storms dissipated, as the corrupted orbital platforms went dark, as sensors confirmed Ivan Ooze's energy signature had vanished from their dimension. Around her, what remained of the fleet, 43 ships from an original 300, hung in space like exhausted survivors of a natural disaster. "Fleet status," she requested, her voice hollow with grief and exhaustion. "Casualties at 74%, the calm officer reported. Mars flagship destroyed with all hands. Bakarn's strike team," the officer's voice cracked. "Confirmed killed in action on Begarin. Similar losses on Athis and Kreis Tutu. Total military casualties estimated at 400,000. 400,000 warriors, Jedi and Sith, Republic soldiers and Imperial crew, all dead in a single desperate campaign against an enemy from another dimension. The cost was staggering, but the alternative would have been extinction. Civilian casualties, Satele forced herself to ask. Remarkably low. Evacuation efforts saved 92% of populations on the 3 device worlds. Psychological trauma is extensive. The Phobos effect caused permanent damage to approximately 15% of those exposed, but they're alive. And Dromund Kos, The officer checked readings. Corruption is clearing. Thralls are recovering. The planet will survive. Satele closed her eyes and let herself feel the weight of victory. They'd won. At terrible cost, through desperate measures that violated every principle she'd held sacred, but they'd won. Incoming transmission, the comm officer announced. From the Sith fleet, Darth Vowron requesting communication. Satele straightened, composing herself. The alliance was over. Now came the hard part, remembering they were enemies again. Put him through. Vowron's hologram appeared, the political Sith Lord looking as exhausted as Satele felt. Grand Master, I bring news from the Dark Council, or what remains of it. Of the 15 members, 8 survived. 6 were killed by Ivan Ooze directly. Darth Maul died in the final battle. He paused, something like genuine grief crossing his face. He was the best of us. He was, Satele agreed quietly. His sacrifice saved billions. Indeed, Vowron's expression hardened. Which brings me to the matter at hand. Our alliance was temporary, circumstantial. Now that the threat is eliminated, we return to our war, Satele finished. I know. The Jedi Council expected nothing less. However, Vowron held up one hand. The Dark Council has voted on a proposal, 6-2 in favor. We're offering a 5-year ceasefire, not peace. We are still enemies, still fundamentally opposed in philosophy, but a ceasefire. Time to rebuild, time to honor those who fell fighting beside us. Time to... He seemed to struggle with the words. Acknowledge that some threats transcend our ancient conflict. Satele felt something break inside her. Relief, grief, hope, all mixed together. The Jedi Council will accept. 5 years. And then we'll probably try to kill each other again, Vowron said with a tired smile. But for now we remember that Jedi and Sith fought together against extinction, and we won. The transmission ended. Satele stood alone on her bridge, surrounded by the aftermath of the most desperate battle she'd ever fought, and allowed herself one moment of weakness. She wept. For Mar, who'd been an honorable enemy and briefly an ally. For Bakarn, her friend and fellow council member. For the 400,000 warriors who'd given everything to stop a threat most of the galaxy would never even know existed. 3 months later, Dromund Kaas was still recovering. The physical damage, the crater where Ivan's palace had stood, the ruined districts where corruption had spread, would take years to repair. The psychological damage might never fully heal. Millions of former thralls underwent therapy, struggling with memories of their time under Ivan's control, haunted by actions they'd committed while purple light burned in their eyes. But the Sith Empire endured. It always did. Darth Vowron stood in the rebuilt Dark Council chamber, addressing the 6 surviving members and 2 newly appointed replacements. The chamber was different now, simpler, less ostentatious. They'd learned something from Ivan Ooze's twisted throne room about the dangers of theatrical excess. The 5-year ceasefire with the Republic is holding, Vowron reported. Trade has resumed in neutral sectors. Joint archaeological teams are studying the dimensional rift phenomenon. Both sides want early warning if something like Ivan Ooze ever tries to enter our galaxy again. And our military strength? Asked Darth Asina, who'd survived Ivan's initial assault and earned promotion to the Council through her role in the evacuation efforts. Recovering, slowly. Vowron pulled up fleet projections. We lost 60% of our capital ships in the final battle. The Republic lost similar numbers. Neither of us has the strength to wage war effectively, which makes the ceasefire mutually beneficial as well as honorable. Honorable, Darth Ravage rumbled. The massive Sith Lord had survived by evacuating his flagship seconds before it was destroyed. That word tastes strange in this chamber. But Mar died honorably, as did the others. We owe them memory, at least. The council observed a moment of silence for their fallen. Even Sith, pragmatic and ruthless as they were, understood the value of sacrifice when it served survival. "What of the thralls?" Asina asked. "Those who were corrupted. Can they be trusted?" "Our medical teams report that Ivan's control was absolute, but non-permanent," Vowron explained. "Once his presence left our dimension, the corruption dissolved. Most victims have recovered mentally, though trauma lingers. We've reassigned former thralls to non-critical positions until they can be fully cleared." "And the ancient Sith lords he resurrected," pressed another council member. "Tulak Horde, Marka Ragnos, their knowledge, their techniques." "Lost when their corpses were destroyed," Vowron confirmed. "Master Bakarn's team eliminated them permanently during the device placement operations. Their holocrons remain on Korriban, sealed and under guard. We've decided not to attempt any further resurrection rituals." A ripple of dark amusement moved through the council. That was as close to admitting a mistake as Sith ever came. On Coruscant, the Jedi Council gathered in their tower, sunlight streaming through tall windows onto polished floors. Grandmaster Satele Shan stood before her peers, delivering her report on the Ivan Ooze crisis and its aftermath. "The ceasefire is holding," she confirmed. "The Sith honor their agreements, at least when pragmatism supports honor. We've established joint monitoring stations at the coordinates where the dimensional rift appeared. If anyone attempts similar summoning rituals, we'll know immediately," Master Sio Bakarn's successor finished. The council had appointed Master Gnost Dural to fill the vacancy, a historian who understood that knowledge was their best defense against future dimensional threats. "And the moral questions?" Master Jarek Kaden asked quietly. "We used weapons of terror against civilian populations. We sacrificed our own principles to achieve victory. How do we reconcile?" "We don't," Satele interrupted gently. "We live with our choices. We honor those who fell, and we remember that preserving life sometimes requires actions that haunt us." She looked around at her fellow council members. Master Bakarn chose to die saving 3 million civilians. Darth Maul chose to die buying time for our fleet. Jedi and Sith, working together, saved this galaxy from a threat that would have ended all choice, all free will, all light and dark. "At terrible cost," Kaden said. "Yes, but the alternative was extinction." Satele's voice carried the weight of command. "We made the hard choices. We live with the consequences, and we ensure that Master Bakarn's sacrifice and all the others meant something." The council fell silent, each member contemplating their own role in the crisis. They'd won. The galaxy was safe, but victory tasted of ashes and regret. In the neutral zone between Republic and Imperial space, a memorial station hung in the void. Built jointly by both governments, it bore the names of every warrior who died fighting Ivan Ooze. 400,000 names, Jedi and Sith side by side, no distinction made between light and dark. Satele visited it once, standing before the wall bearing Master Bakarn's name. She touched the engraved letters and whispered, "Thank you, old friend." She sensed a presence and turned. Darth Vowron stood nearby, his own hand resting on the section bearing Darth Mar's name. "An unlikely memorial," the Sith Lord said. "Jedi and Sith, honored together." "An unlikely alliance," Satele replied, "but necessary and effective." "For 5 years," Vowron reminded her. After that, we returned to our war." "I know." Satele looked out at the stars. "But we'll remember. When historians write about this era, they'll record that once, just once, we put aside our differences and fought together. Against a purple-armored madman from another dimension," Vowron added with dark humor. "I'm sure they'll think we're exaggerating. Let them think what they want. We know the truth." They stood together in silence, ancient enemies sharing a moment of respect before the inevitable return to conflict. Then Vowron bowed slightly, acknowledgement, not submission, and departed for his ship. Satle remained alone, watching stars wheel slowly across the viewport. Somewhere out there in the dimensional void, Ivan Ooze's fragments drifted, scattered across realities. He wasn't dead. Beings like him couldn't truly die, and someday, perhaps in centuries or millennia, he might reconstitute himself and try again. But not today. Not in this galaxy. Not while Jedi and Sith remembered what they'd achieved together. On Dromund Kaas, purple stains still marked certain buildings, corruption that had seeped too deep to ever fully remove. The locals called them Ooze scars and avoided them. Children dared each other to touch the marks, then ran away laughing nervously. The Sith Empire had survived. The Jedi Order had survived. The galaxy had survived. And in dark archives on Korriban and in secure Jedi vaults on Tython, detailed records of the Ivan Ooze incident were sealed away, warnings for future generations, lessons purchased with 400,000 lives. The ceasefire would last 5 years. Then the ancient war would resume, light against dark, as it always had and always would. But both sides had learned something valuable. Some threats transcended their conflict. Some enemies were so terrible that even Jedi and Sith must unite to face them. Ivan Ooze had sought to conquer the galaxy, to transform all life into extensions of his theatrical will. Instead, he'd accomplished something neither Jedi nor Sith had managed in 1,000 years of warfare. He taught them to work together. It was, perhaps, the most ironic legacy a villain could leave behind. The galaxy turned, life continued, and in the space between dimensions, Ivan Ooze's scattered consciousness slowly, painfully, began the long process of reconstitution. It would take millennia. But he was patient, and he was hungry. The Star Wars galaxy had seen the last of him. For now, the dimensional rift had closed, sealed by Republic and Imperial engineers working in unprecedented cooperation. The Phobos devices were dismantled, their components scattered across secure vaults where no single faction could access them without the other's knowledge. The memorial station grew slowly as more names were added, not just warriors killed in direct combat, but civilians who'd died from Phobos exposure, soldiers who'd succumbed to corruption's lingering effects, and refugees who'd perished during chaotic evacuations. 400,000 deaths, 3 planets scarred by weaponized terror. Dromund Kaas forever marked by purple stains that refused to fade. The cost of victory had been catastrophic, but extinction would have cost everything. Grand Master Satele Shan and what remained of the Jedi Council worked tirelessly to heal the psychological wounds left by the crisis. Jedi healers traveled to affected worlds, offering meditation techniques and force-assisted therapy to former thralls struggling with trauma. Many would recover. Some never would. That was the price of Ivan Ooze's ambition. Scars that would last generations. The Dark Council, reduced but not broken, rebuilt their empire with brutal efficiency. They'd learned caution from Ivan's invasion, implementing new security protocols against dimensional threats and restricting research into experimental summoning rituals. Even Sith recognized the danger of reaching beyond known reality without proper safeguards. The 5-year ceasefire held, though not without tension. Border skirmishes were strictly forbidden, but both sides tested boundaries in subtle ways: espionage, diplomatic maneuvering, technological races. The ancient enmity remained, merely suppressed by mutual exhaustion and respect for shared sacrifice. Darth Vowron emerged as the effective leader of the Dark Council, his political acumen guiding the Empire through Reconstruction. He maintained communication channels with Satele, not as friends but as pragmatic leaders who recognized that another Ivan Ooze could emerge at any time. The monitoring stations at the Rift site operated under joint control, staffed by teams trained to recognize dimensional anomalies. On quiet nights, when the War Memorial Station's lights reflected off nearby nebulae, veterans of the Ivan Ooze campaign would gather, Jedi and Sith who'd fought together, who'd seen their enemies become temporary allies against something worse. They didn't speak much during these gatherings. Words seemed inadequate for what they'd experienced. But they remembered. They all remembered. The galaxy had faced a purple nightmare from beyond reality, a theatrical madman with 6,000 years of malevolence and the power to corrupt the Force itself. And though the cost had been terrible, though the scars would never fully heal, they had won. Ivan Ooze's consciousness drifted somewhere in the dimensional void, scattered and impotent, learning that conquest wasn't always possible, that sometimes the prey fought back hard enough to wound even an immortal predator. The Star Wars galaxy had changed. Light and dark had worked together, if only briefly, if only from necessity. That precedent existed now, a template for cooperation when extinction threatened. It wouldn't end the ancient war, philosophies too different, wounds too deep for that, but it planted a seed of possibility. Perhaps in some distant future, that seed might grow into something neither Jedi nor Sith could yet imagine. But for now, the galaxy simply survived. Worlds rebuilt, fleets recovered, the Force flowed on, unchanged by dimensional intrusions or purple corruption. Life continued in all its chaotic, beautiful complexity. And the legend grew, whispered in cantinas, debated in academic circles, recorded in both Jedi archives and Sith holocrons. The story of how an entity from another universe tried to conquer the galaxy, and how Jedi and Sith united to cast him back into the void. It was a story that would endure, a warning, a lesson, and perhaps a hope that even the deepest divisions could be bridged when survival demanded it. The ceasefire would end, the war would resume, but neither side would forget the warriors who'd fallen or the impossible alliance that had saved them all. May the Force be with them, all of them. May the Force be with you. More stories await.